This is the mode Envoy, and I probably should have built this a lot sooner. But the week that I got it, I also got my QK100, and then I found out there were some complications with this keyboard, and then I got my ceramic keycaps. But here I am building it now. It comes in this beautiful case that, honestly, I think is one of the best cases I've ever gotten for a keyboard. Underneath the keyboard itself are the weights and the accent piece. I've gone with copper. And in the flap above we get our rubber feet, screws, and daughter board. And our plate comes in the nicest pouch I've ever gotten for a plate. I don't know what the material is, but I really like it. FR4 is a material option, but I've gone with copper once again just to mix things up. It's not very flexible. The PCB is quite beautiful though, and there are no flex cuts. You also get a keycap and switch puller, and the nicest screwdriver bit I've ever gotten with a keyboard. You can actually change out the bits on this one. To match all the copper I've gotten with this keyboard build, I've decided to go with a green aluminum keyboard, which is a completely original idea that only I've ever thought of, and no one else has ever had this idea before. I would say it came beautifully finished, except for the fact that it wasn't. As you can see, mine has these two weird dents on the bottom of it, and even though they're small defects, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I contacted customer support and I sent them pictures of the defects, and they hooked me up with a new keyboard right away. The second one came perfect, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it at all. Well, except for... honestly, that had me really worried for the sound of the keyboard, but I figured we should build it anyways. To apply the bottom rubber feet, we just peel them off and stick them on like every other keyboard. Honestly, nothing special here. But when it comes to the top feet, that's absolute genius. Simply place the rubber feet on top of the keyboard. There's no adhesive on bottom. And the weight you choose will have holes cut out of it so that the rubber sticks out of the plate. That way there is absolutely no chance that the top feet will ever fall off. I wish that they did it for the bottom feet as well, but I can understand that would be slightly more expensive. After that, we just turn the keyboard around and screw it in. We could use that really nice screwdriver that they provided, but regardless of how nice it is, I'm just going to use my electronic screwdriver. For the most part, you just need a 1.5H bit for the whole thing. The accent just slides into place and you just screw that in as well. They don't recommend using the entire screwdriver in case you damage your keyboard, but... and I just have to say at this point, this looks absolutely gorgeous. I don't regret going with copper at all despite how much more it cost, and it really helps with the sound. Next up is the daughter board. All we have to do is screw that in with the 4 screws, but don't put it in upside down like I did. It will save you a lot of time in the future. We can screw in our plate to our PCB as well before putting in our stabilizers and switches. I actually forgot to buy stabilizers for this build because I'm so used to every build coming with stabilizers, but luckily I had plenty of leftover Alstab's V2s. And these are Mode's own Obscura switches. They actually have the Mode logo molded into them, which is quite cute. The QK switches had the QK logo on them as well, but I didn't notice the first time I looked at them. As for our gasket choices, we have these 3D printed things. I'm not sure what to call them. The black ones are just these blocks which are quite stiff, and the white ones are lattice blocks which are much bouncier. To insert them into the keyboard, we just slide them into place. We'll be using the white ones for this build because that's what most people are probably going to use. After that, we can just connect our daughter board to our PCB and slide it into place. Once again, it would help if your daughter board was not installed upside down, so you'll probably have less trouble with this than I did. But once that's done, we just screw in our PCB to our case using these 2 big screws that have gaskets on them. This technically makes it a tray-mounted board, but due to the gaskets underneath the PCB and in between the PCB and these 2 screws, it makes it much bouncier than a standard tray-mount board. As for our keycaps, I've gone with Mode's own anthracite keycaps. These are a PBT/ABS blend that are double shot. They come in a plastic tray that slides out of a box that slides out of another box, and the overall packaging is fantastic. It has extensive layout support, and from what I've seen, all the legends are crisp and clear. One thing I will say though is that the first time I opened these keycaps, there was definitely a distinct scent, like if mothballs and paper sort of mixed together but smelled good. If that makes any sense. When I started putting on the keycaps though, I got really worried about the top row because when I put on the enter, this happened. It seems that whenever you put too much force on the top part of the keyboard, it just starts tipping over like this. Fortunately for me, this isn't really a problem in normal typing, but I suppose if you are a really hard typer on the top row, this would be more of an issue. It doesn't happen on any other rows though, and like I said, in normal typing it's not an issue. So let's see how this keyboard sounds. Thanks for watching all the way to the end, and let me know what you think. Does this make you more excited for the mode tempo? And subscribe if you want to see me build that later in the future.